Hey, this episode of the Majority Report is brought to you by one of our favorite sponsors, SunsetLakeSabadee.com. That's right, SunsetLakeSabadee.com. They are a movement partner. A couple of our sponsors that we have are folks that we deal with directly, and they support the causes that we support. They've been out there helping the nurses in Worcester. They've been helping with our raising money for Afghan refugees, and they care about the planet. They care about their product. They practice regenerative farming practices. Their Sabadee is completely pesticide free. They use integrated pest management. So they plant stuff around it that confuses the pests. They also organic fertilizer, and you can go to their website and a third party breaks down all of the contents of their product. That's what makes their Sabadee that much better, just because you know what's in there. And it is super effective. I use the tinctures for sleeping, sometimes with the melatonin, sometimes just straight. But you can also, they have smokables. Matt uses the keef and mixes it in with other things that he smokes.
Indeed.
Fully legal in New York now, right?
Yep, and I just got a brand new.
I don't know why I keep like dancing around it. But they also have fudge with Sabadee. They have great coffee with Sabadee, which is my weekend brew when I want sort of a calm, but also the caffeine jolt. Mm-hmm. They have the gummies. Just great products. Hand lotion. They have Solve with the arnica. Folks, check it out. You will not be disappointed. And the stuff, the biggest tell for me is that we get emails from folks who love their product, and they do a lot of repeat customers. So check it out, SunsetLakeSabadee.com. And if you use the coupon code LEFTISBEST, one word, you get 20% off all your products. They also have that subscription service, which saves you 25%. But check it out today, SunsetLakeSabadee.com. Now for this show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Democrats on the verge of coalescing around a tax plan. Oh, wait! Oops. President Manchin stubbed his toe and now has a problem with the proposal. Meanwhile, Virginia, whose election is less than 7 days away now, continues to scare Democrats as Obama and Biden both visit the state. That Obama speech. Woof. We should play that thing.
Very sanctimonious.
Oh my God. I couldn't even get through this thing without thinking about that.
Wake up, folks.
It's all your fault.
January 6th, investigators hit the pause on a demand for Trump docs from that day. And we are closer to seeing what's in and out of the reconciliation bill, and it's not good. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders holding firm on a Medicare expansion. We'll talk more about that. An FDA panel recommends the Pfizer vax for 5 to 11-year-olds. Final approval seems imminent.
In a minute.
Meanwhile, Moderna agrees to sell up to 110 million doses to Africa. How nice of them. Former presidential advisor Deborah Birx says that the Trump team could have prevented 130,000 deaths in the U.S. And Texas Governor Abbott signs a bill banning transgender girls from playing sports in Texas. All this and more on today's program. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is,
it's hump day.
That's the most animated.
Well, sometimes I like trying to. It's like a strategic thing I do. I'll like be low key before the show, and then to take.
I'm not just talking about like
surprise.
I don't know if I could. I remember a single day, like a single moment where you've been more animated. I mean, I've seen you like angry, but like that level of excitement. That doesn't have to do with like I would imagine you get that way like when you're watching like the Giants score a touchdown or you're happy about the Knicks today. I mean that's what it is. But you got really excited about.
How can you not be happy about the Knicks? But
Go Knicks.
Go Knicks.
I don't care about the Knicks.
But I mean I think you mix up what happens with me when I watch a Giants game. When they score, I just get more anxious that now my hopes are up and they're going to eventually lose. So it's more like a really abusive relationship other than that, because I'm just like...
I wasn't going to say anything about
the other shoe's going to drop. Oh no, he's being nice to me. When's it going to turn?
All right, this didn't go in the direction that I thought it did.
Just forget it. I just thought it was
excited about Hump Day.
Emma
Vigeland here, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see.
I haven't personally experienced that.
Going
I just
through
read about it.
Apparently some challenges that maybe we should be talking about afterwards.
No.
Speaking of challenges, and we're going to get it. We're going to dig deeply into this today. The tax proposal that Ron Wyden apparently has been working on for years, and has now been unveiled. And we don't know if it's actually going to be implemented. But if it is, there's a lot of people whom I trust who are saying that this tax scheme, in and of itself, if it had just been its own bill, would have been really, really impressive. And it's unclear how much money it's going to raise, et cetera, and what that's going to allow for. And that's probably why Joe Manchin all of a sudden had a problem. I mean, it's just...
It's a lot more comprehensive than initially reported, because the Wyden bill is...
That too, yes. It is because we were talking about, we thought it was one thing and it ends up being two things.
Yes.
But we will talk about that in a sec. But first, speaking of Joe Manchin, I wish there was a follow-up on this, but look at this. There have been climate activists who are on a hunger strike. And they're in Capitol Hill, or I should say just on Capitol Hill. And one of these hunger strikers, a woman named Abby, approached Joe Manchin yesterday to urge him to stop blocking the provisions in the reconciliation bill to deal with climate change. And here's how that went. Joe Manchin seemed a little bit uncomfortable. Sound.
Oh, sorry.
Right now, despite the fact that millions of people are criticizing us. I am going to grow up into catastrophic climate emergency. You continue to block the civilian climate corps, the methane emissions. Joe Manchin,
Your name?
my name is Abby.
Abby, let me tell you, we've done more in the United States of America than any other country. All the pollution's coming from Asia.
Joe Manchin, if the United States of America does not cut our emissions by at least 50%, I'm going to grow up into non-stop climate emergency. I have been on a hunger strike. We haven't eaten for 7 days, Joe. Tuesday. Joe Manchin, millions of people have called your office. We have been trying to reach you for months and months because you are standing against everything I need to have a livable future. I have dreams. Young people here have dreams.
Come and see me. You're more than welcome.
The United States does not pass massive climate action this fall. It is too late. This is our one of our last chances.
Please come to my office.
Joe Manchin, I'm talking to you right now.
We can't get in a meeting. We've been calling. We're trying to get a meeting with
I'll call my office for a meeting. You're more than welcome to, and we're happy to have a meeting. Thanks a lot.
I want to live. I want to live. Young people want to live.
I mean, to be faced with that, and the first response is like, well, Asia's really not doing their share. This idea that the United States is doing better than Asia is pretty twisted. And then, of course, the call my office is sort of like the last refuge of a scoundrel, isn't it? Because
call my office so I don't have to look at you in the face as I tell you I'm not going to do anything for you.
Exactly. And of course, the idea, like these people, oh, call your office.
I didn't think of that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Call your office. And we hadn't thought about that. And of course, they've called their office. And of course, if they called their office 15 minutes after that exchange, there's no way they're going to be invited into that office.
Oh, yeah. There would be a buffer of a few staffers or interns that would say, oh, we'll take down this call for the records. And Manchin, our senator, takes your concerns very seriously. I mean, he just wanted to filter that entire situation out of his brain. Because, like, the only thing Manchin really cares about right now is, one, protecting his own finances, which is inextricably linked to his hesitancy on climate, and also is just being the kingpin and deal maker. And the people whose lives are affected by that deal making are a bit ancillary.
Now, one of the people who's not getting along with Joe Manchin these days is Bernie Sanders.
I thought they had that photo op, though.
They did have that nice photo where they took a picture with each other. And there, I mean, at one point, right, does this reconciliation bill become worth it to pass at all for progressives? I mean, there is... And I don't know that we know enough about what's in it. We'll go through, sort of like what we know is definitely not in it and where we think it might land. And we're going to talk about the taxes. But at one point, the question may come down to, is it worth passing any of this? Is it worth passing any of it? Is there more? Is the policy value just not significant enough and the political costs associated with the way that these policies are being now sort of twisted and developed simply too great? And do progressives have more leverage if they wait a couple of years? I mean, honestly, this is what it comes down to. It's a very hard decision to make for a lot of people. I mean, if you're going to have a child tax credit, a tax credit that's going to sunset in a year, and it may not get picked up again, and may end up, because it sunsets, may end up costing Democrats because the Republicans will run on it. And it's just going to be a diminishment of benefits for people.
Where'd that tax credit go? Blame the people in power. It's like the easiest thing ever. But of course, they're going to try to make it expire right before the election so they get to pay the political costs.
I mean,
Idiots.
And I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
That may or may not be, but
I guess that's
at one point, do you say, like, this doesn't make any sense to continue to pursue? And look, Manchin wants some things in the bipartisan bill. Certainly Sinema wants things in the bipartisan bill. That stuff could just end up getting passed anyways, because there's stuff in there that Republicans want. And at one point, maybe you just say, we're going to walk away from this because it's too much of a diminishment of what we demanded. And
I think that point is the Medicare expansion.
And it could very well be, the line in the sand could be some form of Medicare expansion. I do not think the idea of $800 dental coupons is going to do it. And that seems to be sort of where progressives, at least Bernie Sanders, starting to put their stake in the ground. Here is Bernie Sanders talking to Manu Raju. He is from CNN, and he's on Capitol Hill. This is him yesterday.
The pharmaceutical industry made $50 billion in profit, and right now has 1,500 paid lobbyists here in Washington to make sure we don't lower the cost of prescription drugs. So to my mind, any serious reconciliation bill must include real Medicare negotiations with the pharmaceutical industry to lower the cost of prescription drugs. That's probably the issue most on people's minds. Maybe the issue second most on people's minds is the understanding that it is really insane that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we have tens of millions of Americans, older Americans, who have no teeth in their mouth, who are unable to digest the food that they're eating, people who cannot hear and communicate with their grandkids because they have no hearing aids, people are unable to see. Well, this is America, richest country in the history of the world. Bottom line is that any reconciliation bill must include serious negotiations on the part of Medicare with the pharmaceutical industry, lower the cost of prescription drugs. That's what the American people want. Any serious reconciliation bill must include expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
Is that a red line for you? Is that a red line for you, sir? Sir, is that a red line for you?
I didn't hear what he said after that with the red line.
I don't think he said anything.
I don't know if he said very much. We play that last moment.
He doesn't want the soundbite out there of it being a red line. They're in the midst of these tax negotiations.
Absolutely. I mean, he is saying specifically, like, a serious bill.
It is the red line. It is the red line. And that's when you tank the proposal. I mean, that's like Manchin getting too big for his britches there. It's also political suicide. I'm going to speak to their self-interest. Like Medicare, as you've mentioned, one of the most popular program in the country, and an expansion of it that isn't convoluted, that centers around little coupons, as you say, it would be a significant political benefit for Democrats. So, I know Manchin doesn't care about that. He cares about his own very particular personal brand in his state. But nationally, there needs to be a circling of the wagons around this proposal. I'm looking out for you idiots.
And I guess, the bottom line is, at what point does Sanders get up from the table and walk away and go like, done. This was my top priority. And if that doesn't happen in this, it's not worth it. I mean, I guess we'll see. And I frankly, I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. But it seems to me that from Sanders' perspective, at least, if he doesn't get some type of meaningful movement on that or acceptance of that, the negotiation of the pharmaceuticals just seems it's unbelievable to me that someone has the gall to actually be against that. I mean, just think about this. The idea is, should a buyer of mass quantities of prescription drugs be able to negotiate for those drugs, right? I mean, we allow Walmart and Amazon and all of these massive corporations to engage in full-on monopsony, which is basically where we have eliminated all of the competitors. We're the only buyer of this. And not only are we going to negotiate for price, we're going to tell you how you need to grow your chickens. We're going to tell you how you you can't sell this product in other places. I mean, we allow all of this. It's encouraged. And the idea that we would not allow the government to negotiate on pharmaceuticals is it's just amazing to me. And this is cinema seems to be the biggest culprit here, but I mean, who knows who else, that we don't have a media or a system or an engaged citizenry that can stand up and go like, hey, are you out of your mind? But even if you don't get that savings, both for Medicare recipients and for the U.S. government, going on to expand the benefits that you get with Medicare, particularly dental. That's I mean, one or the other of those, it seems to me, you need to have. But I guess we'll see. Let's get into this tax proposal because we don't know what Manchin's doing at this point. And, it was reported, I don't know, a day ago that he was okay with this. And then I think...
And it was a hallelujah moment because Sinema says no increase on corporate tax rates, no increase on highest marginal rates. But I could get on board with this billionaire tax that she was working on the side with Elizabeth Warren on. And then right before the show breaks, Manchin says to Punchbowl, or they're reporting it, I don't want the billionaire tax either.
Well, and let's be clear here. There's two sets of taxes that we're talking about. One is this billionaire tax. We'll get into that in a moment. And then the second is essentially the functional equivalent of an alternative minimum tax for corporations, which basically says, and let's start with the corporate minimum tax. There would be a 15%, and the real story with corporate taxes in this country has always been the effective rate. Whatever the tax rate is, it doesn't matter if the corporations have figured out some mechanism in which to evade taxes.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a 30% corporate tax rate or a 5% corporate tax rate. If the corporations have figured out the mechanisms in which to avoid all taxes, it doesn't matter. This would basically do away with that problem. It would require some U.S. companies that report more than $1 billion in profits to shareholders, to pay at least a 15% tax rate, or I should say tax, period. Doesn't matter how many tax breaks they qualify for. And the way that they would assess those profits would be easy. There's a shareholders report that you've got to issue. So there's this game of like shareholders. We made $10 billion last year, $3 billion per quarter, whatever it is. But then when it comes to the government, it's like, well, we didn't really make these profits because we were offsetting them with this depreciation or that tax break or whatnot. That would all go away.
And that would apply to around 200 companies that currently are circumventing that system.
And supposedly that would raise $300 to $400 billion over 10 years. So 30, which it's not nothing. The idea is that it would simplify the tax rates. It would get rid of that dynamic where they're not paying enough taxes, where they're not paying any taxes, and it raises some money in the context of the bill. This is also a change in the way that the tax code is structured, because it's no longer we're going to pretend to tax you and then you come up with ways of getting around that tax. Totally. This is just going to be a very straightforward type of situation. You like to brag about your profits, of course, because that's what increases your stock value.
I do. Yeah, you're right.
And as you know, your pay is tied to the stock value, so you have an incentive to report those profits and not underreport them.
It was written into my contract.
I mean, here's the irony: is that if these corporations actually were functioning in such a way that the most prominent issue for them was the long-term financial health of their corporations, maybe we'd be afraid they're underreport their profits. But that's never the way they operate, because it's all about the value of their stocks, because all of the C-suite and the CEOs and the board of directors, they all get their compensation through the stocks.
Yes.
So this would be a big shift. And I guess because the rate stays at 21%, the corporate tax rate, Kristen Sinema is happy.
Yeah. And it also pairs with what the Biden administration was pushing and their initiative on the global minimum tax rate. So
exactly.
You're able to kind of have two layers to the wall. You can't go below this 15% rate. And it's enforced in in two separate ways.
All right. So that takes us to the widened billionaires tax. And it's a lot
more robust, and as I mentioned, than initially reported, which is encouraging.
I think people who've been listening to the program for any number of time know that my perspective on taxation is that the biggest role it plays in our system is to inhibit people owning too much money. So that we do not have a wealth disparity that also turns into a political disparity in terms of power. Now, that's already happened. We have a plutonomy that has turned into a plutocracy. We do not really technically need taxes to fund the government. We print our own money in this country, and we have a currency that is accepted worldwide. And we have the ability to fund what we want to fund. Taxes are helpful in the event that you do overheat the economy. You can pull back and basically pursue austerity at moments where you need to inhibit the purchasing power of society at any given point. So taxes also function in that way. Now, in the way that Washington exists today, taxes also are a method of raising money to spend, which is a way for the wealthy people in this country to inhibit what government does for the vast majority of people.
And so then you hear that in the form of pay-fors, right? And
yes.
So the conversation we're having is, one, you're absolutely right. Like, we don't need to even be engaging in this, but regardless, Washington wants to engage in it altogether.
And the vast majority of Americans also perceive it this way, too.
Yes, they perceive it this way because it's reinforced constantly. And Biden says the bill will be fully paid for, the bill will be fully paid for, right? But at the same time, Sinema and Manchin, or Sinema at least, no increase in corporate taxes, no increase in the highest marginal tax rate, which means, okay, then if the bill needs to be fully paid for, we are at an impasse. And then it is that logjam that inhibits social spending. And so it's like a built-in excuse in the system.
Exactly.
We can't do this for you. Okay, we could blow the whole thing up and do away with this fiction, but no one's willing to do that, even someone like Bernie, just yet.
I mean, this is the tool that they use. We can't afford this. We need to tighten our belt. We all need to make hard decisions. I mean, the rhetoric changes depending on the context. This is the reason why we need to cut Social Security. This is the reason why we need to cut this. The reason why I cut that, because nobody wants to raise taxes, and so they have to pretend that we actually need to raise taxes to do this. The reason why you have taxes is to inhibit people from having a monopoly over money and some type of concentration of power and of wealth. But so with that said, This is I mean, I like this a lot. This is, I think, one of the most exciting sort of developments from a tax perspective in doing that. What this bill, I don't know if it's really quite a bill, this proposal would do from Ron Wyden, it would tax billionaires, and I think it would only apply to like 700 billionaires. That number obviously is not fixed. It just so happens how many billions of dollars you have. It taxes billionaires on their unrealized capital income. So in other words, what billionaires do is, I own 1 million shares of Amazon, let's just say. And I'm just making these numbers up because I don't know what the Amazon stock price is, but I imagine it's quite high. And I don't know how many outstanding shares are, but I would imagine there's quite a few. All right, but I own 1 million Amazon shares, and they're at an X number of price. And so they're worth, let's just say, $10 billion. Now, as that goes up, the value of the Amazon shares go up. Maybe it's gone from $8 billion to $10 billion, and it can go up to $12 billion. I don't have to pay taxes on that because I have not realized, what they say, the gains from that increase.
Yes.
I haven't sold the stock, and so I don't actually have the cash. But $8 billion, $10 billion, $4 billion, $1 billion worth of Amazon stock allows me to go out and borrow the money. And I get really good rates because I'm a billionaire. And believe me, like, I don't know any billionaires, but I know some people who are wealthy, and they get much better rates on all this stuff, and they're not even that wealthy.
Right.
And so I go out and I borrow the money. I want to build a spaceship and go to space. So I'm going to borrow the money against my stock. I don't have to pay taxes on that money that I borrowed. In fact, I probably get a tax break, maybe on the interest, depending on what I use it for. And that's what billionaires do to avoid taxes until essentially they die. And what this would do is simply say, okay, your stock went from $8 billion to $10 billion. We're going to tax that $2 billion gain.
We are taxing the increase in capital gains.
It's what is known as the unrealized capital income. It exists out there. It has more value. You can get loans against it.
And it's nothing outrageous for you billionaires. It's 23.8% as proposed by Wyden. And it could get whittled down maybe to, throw something over to Manchin.
Now, if your stock goes from $8 billion to $6 billion, well, then you have losses, and you can use those losses against any other gains you have in other places. So it's perfectly fair. Also, what this would do is it would institute a minimum tax on the profits large corporations tout to their shareholders. We said that already. It also taxes companies that buy back their own stock. If you go back into interviews that we've done, and we haven't had him on in a while, he's a Lazonic. It's Bill Lazonic. You can look him up, William Lazonic. We've had him on this program a couple of times. He's a professor, I think, at UMass Business. And his theory has been that stock buybacks, which incidentally were illegal.
They should still be illegal.
Up until 1980, I think it was 2 or 81, when Ronald Reagan basically told the SEC, let's make that legal now. Prior to that, it was like a pump, and not necessarily dump scheme. Like if you buy your own stock, it increases the value of the stock. It's stock manipulation. And what happened is that when Ronald Reagan allowed for this to be legal, you started having companies who, instead of putting their money back into their company, instead of like maintaining a workforce, instead of maintaining a responsibility to the community, found the CEO of this corporation, and you're on the board of directors, and we both own a ton of stock in the majority report. I'm like, you know what? Bradley, we don't need any more. Matt, you're going to take over Bradley's job. We're going to save some money. I'm going to take that money and I'm going to buy our own stock. And then guess what happens? You and I who get compensated through our stock purchases, we make more money. We have a little cottage industry.
The stock value increases, and thus we all get richer. And I mean, the idea that this is legal, because it is now incredibly commonplace. It's like as easy as breathing, and it's so common sense. Like I remember a few years back, Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders did an op-ed in the New York Times, basically calling
the end of yes.
Yes, I mean this is like a way to cheat the system, and yet it's become so normalized.
I personally would like to get rid of it totally, but at the very least, there's going to be taxing that will at least disincentivize it a little bit.
Well, we hope.
We hope.
Yes.
Or these are all proposals, incidentally. There's also a 3.8% net investment tax from the Affordable Care Act to partnerships and S corporations who got a big benefit from the Trump tax cuts. And so these are essentially, ultimately what you're getting is less taxes on the rich, not less taxes, an absence of increase in taxes on the rich, but much more significant taxes on the ultra rich, which is, I think, a pretty good start. If these were separate, like I say, if these tax bills were separate from the reconciliation bill, people would be pretty psyched, I think. And, there's specifics in it. You are eligible for this new tax if you have $1 billion in assets or $100 million in income for 3 straight years.
Pretty protected class.
Now, I know this is going to be rough, folks. And for me, if there's, I don't know that there's going to be capital flight because of this. But God bless.
Fine.
Bye-bye.
Something either in the maybe it was the Times article that we read in the packet before, 3/4 of capital income goes unreported.
Of course.
Isn't that unbelievable? And 3/4, I should say. And
let's be clear on how this is going to work. It's very easy to say, like, okay, you had $8 billion worth of Amazon stock, and now it's $10 billion, $2 billion. That's your unrealized capital gain. We're going to tax that. And you get 23.8% tax. and it's a mark to market. So at the end of the year, we assess how far it's gone up, and that's where we apply the tax. Now, there is, for people who already are in that sort of like cohort, there is a one-time tax on the built-in gain at the time of the enactment. So in other words, if I had $4 billion worth of Amazon stock and I bought that, or I've had it over the course of 20 years or whatever it is, and now it's worth $6 billion, the tax would be retroactive and you'd get 5 years to pay it off. As if you needed the 5 years, but let's just, we want to be nice. And so that's what, a Jeff Bezos would do. You'd have to do that. Now, then it's also, there are some assets that are a little bit harder to tell what they are. Assets that aren't as easily tradable. And what they do in that instance is you do not get taxed on that until you do sell it. But there's an interest payment. So the tax is actually higher because you've deferred that tax, but you still will pay the full tax plus interest.
So apparently Bezos would owe $40 billion today if this was implemented. So, and if he chooses to offset it or pay it out over increments, it would increase in interest.
And I don't know what that would put his wealth at.
I just looked it up. It's like, his net worth is $200 billion.
The difference between having $200 billion and $160 billion, or even if I would imagine the difference between having $200 billion versus like $50 billion is nothing. I mean, it's nothing. Maybe you have one less space program, or maybe you can't compete with governments on certain things.
Yeah, but you're unable to feed the insatiable beast that is his sociopathy.
Well, it would take a couple of therapy sessions. I'm sure you get back to it.
Maybe if you can afford it after this new capital gains tax.
There is apparently, Mitt Romney said, since this is not tradable, I'm sorry, I said not tradable in terms of assets, like real estate or something like that, it's tradable, but it's just not as fluid. Right. How do you measure? If you have a mansion that's worth $10 million, and how do you measure how much it's worth in a year unless you sell it? You can't look on Zillow and get the exact, value of it or whatever it is. So that's the one that would defer. But there are some non-tradable assets, I guess. And apparently someone has floated something like this. Maybe Mitt Romney has.
Paintings?
Yeah. Did we have a clip from Romney?
Yesterday.
Did we play that yesterday?
Yes.
Or did we didn't play that one, did we?
We did.
And yeah, so Romney said that yesterday. The idea that Bezos and whatever it is, Elon Musk or whoever, one of these idiots are.
Elon Musk, I think, made over $30 billion yesterday. Anyway, are
going to sell their stock in their companies to invest in paintings and in diamonds or something like that. First off, I don't think there is enough of that stuff around, and they wouldn't do that, I think, because it would destroy their wealth. Yeah. Because, let's say they're we're going to buy up all of the Picassos.
Yeah.
And make them incredibly expensive. There's not enough people around to buy them from them. I mean, that's the thing. It's Jeff Bezos can sell one share of Amazon stock. And there is a lot of buyers out there for that one share of Amazon stock. He can sell these in increments. But if he was to do paintings or diamonds, they would basically be burning their money.
I know. It's what Bond villain rich person is Mitt Romney trying to pretend is going to be affected by this or get away with something? Well, it's just so silly.
They wouldn't do it. And frankly, if they did, okay,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly willing to have Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk tie up all of their fortune in super expensive paintings and in
Bars
diamonds.
of gold.
Yeah, because not gold, because gold you can actually cut up and I want stuff that they are locked into. The only way that you're going to get your money out of this is if you find somebody else who can spend $12 billion on a Monet. And good. Then they're done.
Yeah.
And so this is a great proposal. And, well,
I don't think so,
says Joe Manchin.
You're right.
It's divisive. He's the one guy who can spot that.
But who knows? I mean, his word is not worth the paper it's written on or like the spittle that comes out of his mouth when he says it. He can maybe be coaxed or changed.
Can you ever just believe, God, man.
What?
I just like the idea of like protecting the billionaire's wealth like that is just, to me, it's just, it's psychotic.
Right. But I mean,
but that's who he hangs out with and stuff.
On his yacht. And also, again, it doesn't even become about like the substance of it at a certain point. It's like a personal thing. You read these reports of Manchin angrily like screaming at Bernie, how about none of it? Like it's personal for this dude.
Yeah.
He wants to be the kingpin. And, you know, it's all office politics, except millions and millions and millions of people are going to be affected.
But like with cinema, like whenever it's personal, it's always personal in a way that serves the whole.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Quick rundown of a reminder of what is in the bill and what's left of what was in the bill.
Mm-hmm.
The child tax credit. This is the thing that was $3,600 per child for most people in the country. It would go down a little bit at one point that, like I said earlier, now they're talking about maybe just extending it 1 year, which is, you know, highly problematic unless the Democrats retake the House and the Senate or maintain the House and the Senate at the midterms. But free community college, that's gone.
Yep.
Gone. Biden already said that that provision is dead.
Jesse Waters was right.
Medicare expansion, we don't know.
TBD.
Certainly the idea of dropping the age to 60 years old is gone. That maybe has been gone for a long time. We're not really sure. But the two questions are expanding Medicare to cover dental, to cover hearing and vision, and also the ability of Medicare to negotiate better pharmaceutical prices. We don't know. That's where Bernie, it appears, may be willing to die on that hill. We'll see. He's not articulating that he is, but we don't know. Paid leave. Originally, we were talking about a 12-week paid leave, family and medical leave for every U.S. worker, including self-employed and gig workers. That would have been subsidized by the government, paid for by the government. There is a new version of that, which is shorter. They're talking like 4 weeks, narrower eligibility. And frankly, Matt Brunig wrote a piece, I can't remember where it was, on his public policy blog, I think, arguing that the way that they fashioned this, it's not worth doing now, that it's garbage. And if we get into a situation where the government is actually like subsidizing insurance companies to provide this paid leave, it's going to end up costing a lot more, and like a huge chunk of the benefits are just going to go to insurance companies. Not worth it. So paid leave, gonzo. I mean, and later in the program, we're going to be talking about these morons who are complaining about paternity leave, and just horrible human beings who are certainly wealthy enough to take the time off, who are, or have businesses that continue to run without them, right? I mean, didn't like Crowder put on shows while he wasn't, he took his leave.
Wait, but that wasn't for his child. It was for like his personal health issues.
But then he took a couple more weeks.
Oh, did he?
I think. Dave Rubin goes on hiatus for the month of August. It's nice.
Crowder does offer it, but he says it's also for pussies.
Right. Tax hikes. We've already gone through the tax provisions. There was also childcare. Originally, the Democrats were talking about $450 billion for universal pre-K and a separate multi-billion-dollar program to essentially beef up the childcare industry and make it more affordable for parents. It doesn't look good on the childcare provisions. We don't know about universal pre-K. That could just be junked.
Yep.
Clean energy looks like a crap show right now.
Although, I mean, the White House now saying $500 billion maybe in the bill on climate, but like who knows? That was from Punchbowl this morning. But like you have to get it past Manchin. He's put up a firewall on pretty much any climate spending.
We have the expansion of the subsidies for Obamacare and also an attempt to federalize Medicaid for those red states that have not expanded Medicaid to their citizens. Don't know. Just don't know what the status of that is. Manchin seems to have a problem with the expansion of the Medicaid because it's unfair for other people to subsidize. I don't know what he says about that, but that doesn't look good. The Obamacare subsidies, we don't know what's going to happen at that point. We just don't know. That expires in 2022. Hard to say. Housing aid, Democrats wanted $300 billion in housing aid, 80 of which would have been public housing repairs, 75 for housing vouchers that would have helped low-income older Americans and other folks. Now they're looking like halving those amounts of money. In-home care. Remember the elder care, $400 billion. Keep older people in their homes. And folks who had disabilities. There is an 800,000 person list for people waiting for home care support. Home care workers get horrible wages, and it looks like there's going to be half that amount of funding at this point. I can tell you from personal experience, that kind of support, we have a horrible system, horrible system for dealing with people who are elderly and cannot care for themselves anymore. It is just just an unbelievable crap show. And it is the burdens fall disproportionately on like middle class people, actually.
And lower class people.
And people living in poverty, basically what you need to do is you need to spend down all of your assets, and then you get on Medicaid. But then you only have the opportunity to like get a limited care in-home, or you go into a nursing home. It is just a completely bat crap crazy system that we have. Medicaid pays for 2/3 of the people in nursing homes. 2/3. And the problem is, if you can't get decent care at home, you're putting people into institutions, and it's a difficult situation. All right, we went longer than we were going to.
Really?
I think so.
You're trying to do a short show today?
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to do like a 20-minute show. It didn't work out.
20 minutes.
Yeah. We don't have the Peacock thing anymore, so I'm like, let's let it experiment. Let's play around. Well, we used to back in the day do like every now and then, maybe once a week, we would do like a 20-minute, maybe not once a week, maybe once or twice a month, a 20-minute like teaser show, so that people were like,
I know, yeah.
But
maybe today wasn't the day for that.
Today was not the day for that. David Dayen is going to be on Friday. We're going to talk more about this reconciliation bill and just about where, nobody can predict what Joe Manchin's going to do. But all we can see is like, what proposals are out there. But, the Wyden thing shows you the value of talking about policies in the midst of when you don't have any way to implement them, or
he's had this ready to go for 2 years, and so this is like a way at the 11th hour to just slot that into the reconciliation package to appease this psycho cinema.
Yep. All right, folks, see you. Oh wait, what am I talking about? Just gonna remind you.
See you later.
See you later.
It's all
Bye.
gone.
Yeah, I'm going to bed. Folks, this show relies on your support. We are no longer sucking at the teat of big corporate America.
Except that our show streams on YouTube, which is owned by Google.
Well, we do publish on all sorts of different platforms. Soon, maybe also we'll start to... We'll do it on Rumble.
Yes. Then we'll be sucking at
cred.
Do you know
Palantir's teeth?
Actually, like that kind of goes in with the plug for tonight's Left Reckoning, if I could just do that. Now, do you know how much Peter Thiel was simply just a right-wing hack before he hit it big with the right software engineer and investing? He was just writing a book called The Diversity Myth. He a speech wrote for, I forget what his name is, but he handled the war on drugs under H.W. Bush. He was just a hack. He's a Stanford kid that graduated from law and like did some speech writing for a Republican and wrote these crappy like anti-PC culture books. And then he made friends with a software engineer that made PayPal, and he got a whole bunch of dollars. And he also did like a sort of Roth IRA sort of scam that like I can't really follow how that works.
I think I know how that works.
Yeah,
you put in, you get stock.
I did an interview on this for Peacock.
This is what Romney did.
Yeah.
And when he was at Bain Capital, I think it was, they give him stock. And when you first issue the stock, like it has no value.
It's a cent. It's 2 cents, whatever.
Here's whatever the Roth IRA limit is like $2,000 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But just call it $2,000. Here's this stock. It's worth $2,000, and then
it's under the limit. That
miraculously, in 6 months, it's worth $500,000.
And then he sold PayPal, and then you're able to. Then there's no limit. Like there have been congressional proposals on how to you can have just a top line what dollar amount can go into a Roth IRA, but that hasn't gone through at all. Because of those very kinds of situations. Now, there are estimates that his Roth IRA is worth, tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah, and so once you hit it big like that, you rebrand yourself as this sort of oracle of investment, like the new Warren Buffett or whatever. And but we're going to play an old clip of him in 1996 before he made all the money.
Wait, was he working for Bill Bennett?
Yes, that's who it is.
Oh, God, Bill Bennett's the worst. He was the worst.
Yeah.
He was this moralizing sort of like right-wing libertarian style guy who was looking to privatize education. And then it came out he had blown all his cash. I don't know if he had a gambling problem. And also, I think at one point we actually interviewed a dominatrix in Vegas. He would go to Vegas and just blow it out, but he was so moralizing. That was the thing. I'm not necessarily pro going to see a dominatrix. I'm certainly agnostic. I'm probably somewhere in between.
Go see a dominatrix if you want to see a dominatrix.
Just in general, supports sex workers. But the idea that you would make your living moralizing about this stuff and then, blowing all the cash that you made from your living on gambling and... Yeah, we had a dominatrix in for the RNC 2004. She was
Really?
She's like, the business is just off the charts. When the Republicans show up, they just so desperately want to be humiliated. And but folks, which reminds me, you should support this program by becoming a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you support the free show, and then you get the fun half. And go now, buy tickets for our live show in Boston. It's at the Wilbur Theater. It's January 16th, right? At 3 p.m. We're going to have some real fun. Check it out. We've got a lot of stuff already planned. Some stuff we're going to plan as we get closer. it really is going to be, I mean, it's also going to be the first time that like any of us have gone out and done anything like, sort of like publicly like this. And it's vax and mask situation in Boston, unless like, I don't know, by December, COVID's over. I don't think so. But vax and mask situation, and at the Wilbur Theater, it's a great theater. We're going to have a lot of fun.
It's like a 100-year-old theater, isn't it?
It's, I mean, the Wilbur is like a big deal in Boston. I saw things there as a kid, so I'm pretty excited about it. So check it out. Go buy tickets. And of course, don't forget, you can become a member of the Discord. Now the IMs are going crazy. I support the show, but will Sam spank me? There you go.
New revenue stream.
We'll see, who knows what we'll have planned for the live show. So check that out. Also, AM Quickie. If you go to amquickie.com, you don't have to do anything. You just go to amquickie.com, put your email in, you will sign up for the AM Quickie. It'll be sent to your inbox every day. Check it out. All right, 646-257-3920. And if you want to IM the show, pick up the app at majorityapp.com.
Also, Ben Burgess talking about Charlie Kirk debate tonight, Left Reckoning.
Oh, we're going to play a clip of that, right? Yep. And the fun half. All right, see you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me...
Hey, shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
We are back. It is the fun half.
That was beautiful.
Yep. That's probably the best example of my singing that ever has existed.
Oh, yeah.
You're on Spotify. People can look up Hugo.
That is actually true. I am on Spotify.
Oh, really?
Yes, I made it into the Bob's Burgers album. Was I here when I was singing that? You remember when I was practicing it, though, right?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't sing. Like, literally, my kids ask me during their birthdays to not sing Happy Birthday.
Really?
Yeah, because I can't carry a tune. And it ended up, I think, like ultimately protecting me from being on the Jim Belushi show.
Because your voice is so bad?
Because I think I am tone deaf. And, well, I'll tell that story another time. But the bottom line is I can't sing very well. But on the Bob's Burgers thing, I sang You're the Best Around, which I only know from, I think, Karate Kid, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was... the episode is called Nude Beach. It's the only episode I remember because you want to sing in a TV show or write a song because then you get royalties, which I never signed up for, I don't think. Larry Murphy was always really good with me, so you got to sign up for this thing. But it was the only time I've ever sung, and it wasn't supposed to be good, so it worked out well.
Did you shatter glass?
No, I did not have the ability to shatter glass, but it is a montage scene of Hugo and Bob from Bob's Burgers in a nude competition, athletic competition. And in the background, you hear my screeching voice singing in the voice of Hugo.
Already a really annoying song.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It is. I'm not going to do it.
Well, I mean, everyone just look it up.
Yeah, you can just look it up. Prairie Fire Kowalski on the IM. Hey, Sam, Emma, MR crew. In brief agricultural news, much needed rain has hit California. Unfortunately, it was too much all at once. So it triggered mudslides and much becoming runoff. So total rainfall is a bit misleading with the soil not being saturated as deep. Prices remain strong for cereal grain commodities, high demand from China, low surplus, and a possible fertilizer shortage from the spring. As people concerned. And in some personal news, my friends told me I need to go back onto the dating scene. So I downloaded Tinder.
Oh.
I wasn't getting hits for almost a week until I mentioned in my bio that I use the MR Discord. Needless to say, the responses have been enormous. Now, every person I swipe right, it is an instant match. And they message you as soon as that notification goes off as though they are waiting for that swipe. That is the power of the MR Discord. Leftist poggers. Is that true? That's awesome. I remember like Sean Hannity had his Hannity date thing at one point.
Yeah, I mean, Kowalski, don't just use Tinder. I feel like that's more of a, I don't know. I think there are some better apps. I've been off the market for a little while, but
they're all the same. They're all the same.
Well, I don't know, in a place like Nebraska, like as somebody who is swiped in, North Dakotas and stuff like that, you got to basically use them all.
Yeah, they're all the same. They don't.
Okay, Cupid, Tinder, Bumble,
right,
Hinge, whatever.
Hinge, yeah. I feel like Tinder's more for the hookups and those
maybe Kowalski's after.
I think that was back in the. I think that was back in the day. I don't think that's.
It's not the case anymore.
That's the way anymore.
Actually, like I only got one sort of like longish relationship from dating apps, and it was from Tinder.
That's how I met mine. Hinge.
Coming from CNBC. The proposal for banks to report cash flow information to IRS for accounts with under $10,000 has been removed from the $1.5 trillion spending package after opposition from Senator Manchin, who didn't want the IRS to have the ability to see people evading taxes. Great. Of course. God, man. That dude. Oof. Boy, oh boy. I can't even articulate what I think should happen to that guy. Calling from a 732 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam. How are you? My name is Mike.
Mike, and where are you calling?
Calling in from Jersey, man.
Oh,
calling
Jersey.
in from Mike from Jersey. What's happening, Mike?
Not much. I just wanted to say thank you for covering the paternity leave stuff. Kind of sucks that it's being the family leave stuff is being ripped out of the reconciliation bill, I believe, or at least cut down to 4 weeks. Right now, I'm actually a new dad on paternity leave, and then I gotta say it's pretty great.
Wait, you know what? Okay, will you explain to people?
My daughter.
Will you explain to people? So, congratulations on your daughter. Is this your first kid?
Thank you. Yes.
Will you explain to people why? Now, my understanding is that you, well, I don't know. I mean, but I'm assuming that you did not give birth to your daughter. Is that correct?
How did you know?
Well, I mean,
I'm only messing. Yeah, of course, I did not give birth to her, but
and you are the father. However, you are the father, and so you're on paternity leave. And let me ask you this: what is the value of paternity leave to you, for you personally, and then you can tell me for your partner, the mother of the child, and the child that you presume. But tell me.
So for me, I mean, I didn't really come from the best family growing up, so still kind of learning how to be a dad. So, you know, initially my wife, she was on maternity leave through her job. She's a teacher. So she was home for about the first 8 weeks with our daughter, and then now I'm on it for a month, and then I'm going to use my remaining time like early next year. But it means a lot to me. When my wife was on maternity leave and I was still working, she was typically doing like all the feedings during the night and everything like that. So I really wasn't building a relationship with my daughter, because my wife just said, focus on work, make sure you're like ready to go for it. So it's kind of challenging sometimes on the weekends when I would go and like try to go in, feed her, change her in the middle of the night. But since I've been on paternity leave now for about 2 weeks, you know, she's been able to adjust and, you know, learn that like dad's going to come and help her. It's not always going to be mom. And it's actually made things a lot easier for us while my wife's been transitioning back to work over these past 2 weeks. So for me, I mean, it means a lot to me to be able to develop a relationship with my daughter and kind of navigate on how to be the parent I want to be. I mean, obviously, you know, 3 months, you know, is probably not enough time, and it's just a process as you go. But it definitely means a lot, especially not having, you know, support from, you know, like maybe, you know, the more typical families, you could say, of like grandma and grandpa coming over to watch the baby and stuff like that. It's unfortunately not something that's in the cards for my wife and I.
Well, let me just tell you this: that in terms of that last part, I think there's a lot more people who don't have access to that than do in many situations. Yeah. That was I don't think that, certainly with me and my kid's mom, that was never. We never had that option either. Our parents lived far away from us, and we had. Yeah. No break. But make sure you also try and figure out how here's a tip, like take a night or two, you know, after a while, obviously. Yeah. Honestly, where you find somebody you trust who can stay with your child. But that's a great story. And the bottom line is the confidence that you're going to get from this time in spending time with your daughter and feeling like, okay, because it's terrifying. You see this little baby and you're like, how do we just like the goal is just to like keep it alive and not do anything to mess it up. And it's nice to get the confidence, and that just comes with time and experience. And so if you're starting off that way with some measure of confidence when the child is young, it's going to help going through. That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, it would have been nice if, you know, everybody kind of gets to reap these benefits. You know, I'm fortunate enough, I live in New Jersey, but, you know, work in New York, that they have, you know, the state of New York has, you know, the Family Leave Act, where it's, you know, you get a total of 12 weeks. You know, you can split it up into different increments, which is what my wife and I found works out better for us. But, you know, it's definitely, you know, it should be something that everybody gets to benefit gets to benefit. And I mean, you know, just even thinking outside of the paternity leave part, you know, for your male audience who doesn't have a kid. I mean, as you know, Sam, like, you know, there's challenges for, you know, the mother when they first deliver the baby, whether it's, you know, they have, you know, a traditional sort of birth, or, you know, a C-section. You know, there's recovery time and everything like that. And, you know, some women end up getting nerve damage, things like that. So, I mean, it's 4 weeks usually isn't even enough. I think my wife was medically cleared to be able to, you know, lift, you know, weights and sort of go back to the gym and normal life, so to say, after like 6 weeks. So it's there's definitely things that I don't think like the majority of people really consider when talking about like this sort of leave.
And just lastly, in New York State, you get is it like 65%?
He's in Jersey, right?
Yes, but because you were working in New York State, you get 65% of your average wage. Is that what it was?
So it's 60%. Fortunately enough, I like during COVID, my company had changed their policy where they actually cover the remaining 40%.
Oh wow,
so
that's great.
Right now, I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough that I'm getting, you know, my full pay sort of when I'm out. But I mean, that doesn't mean like my company isn't covering 100% of my pay. They're only picking up the remaining 40%. But I'm assuming there's probably some sort of tax deduction that they're going to be able to take advantage of. Right. You know, so while they are making up that 40% now,
just to be clear,
probably get some of that back.
Paid leave. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for walking us through that, because we're going to talk a little bit about that now. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam. Have a good one. Stay safe.
Good luck with your kid. Hope they sleep.
I just can't get over listening to the Charlie Kirk Ben Burgess debate. How often Charlie Kirk says, actually, what I'm really for is strong families. Like,
the right is constantly talking about this, right? They're constantly talking about all of these people. It's about the families. It's about the families. It's about the families.
Except get to work and go serve your
until
boss.
It's not about the families. Here's Joe Rogan talking about now. If you remember the last call, the call that we just had, part of what he said was beneficial about paid parental, in his instance, paternity leave, was that he could support his the mother of his child. Not just because she was recovering from childbirth, although that was part of it, but also in terms of like, it's hard to be the primary caregiver of a tiny baby. It's hard.
I don't know if you know this, but they can't be left alone.
They can't be left alone. They
don't really help themselves.
Yeah.
If you are in a rarefied group of people, your child sleeps through the night. But for most people, your child does not. And there is no greater sort of like torture than going through prolonged periods of time without being able to sleep. But it also has to do with developing a relationship with the child. Not everybody can afford a night nurse to make sure that you get sleep. Not everybody can afford to just sort of like, well, I'm only going to work 2 hours today and go home and spend like the day with my kid. And it's also not like, you know, when your kid starts to be like 6 or 7 and you come home, you're like, what was your day like today? And they can actually tell you. But prior to that, you need to have experience with the child. Otherwise, you just show up and all of a sudden, like, you know, the child goes to sleep at 7 o'clock. You come home from work, the kid's asleep. And that's it. I had 20 minutes with my baby today.
You value that? You know, A soy boy you are.
Well, I'm not saying this is me. For me, I was, if they're asleep, I'm going to come home. That's great.
Awesome.
But
no bonding time for me.
I say all that because on the right, in the right podcast sphere, to get the clicks, you've got to apparently say that fathers don't need time with their children to take time for paternity leave. Here is Joe Rogan and Bridget Fettesi. Don't know her shit.
I'm sure she pronounces it just like that.
I'm sure it's a Fettesi. Ostensibly talking about paternity leave, but I guess this is maybe a way of mocking the fact that Pete Buttigieg is married to a man and they're both dads.
Well, they try to make this about Pete Buttigieg, but they can't help but make it about paternity leave as a whole. As if they're criticizing Buttigieg for not, getting to the ports and, organizing things himself.
Let's see this.
What's crazy is that Pete Buttigieg during this whole time is on paternity leave. And you just want to go, listen, man, I understand it's hard to raise a child, but isn't that supposed to be for the person who gave birth?
It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Now
leave?
over 70 ships containing 500,000 containers are waiting off.
Pause it 1 second. Do men take paternity leave? Men are generally the primary group that take paternity leave. Paternity leave. Now, I'm not saying that we should discount everything that comes out of Joe Rogan's mouth after the fact that he doesn't understand that paternity leave is for the father.
Idiot.
Go backwards here. I mean, they're so desperate. And I got news for you. There's nothing that the transportation secretary can do at this juncture. These are local issues in terms of things being backed up at these ports. We can go into that in a bit, but
he tries to use the deductive reasoning, and he doesn't know anything, right?
Yeah.
Paternity leave, isn't that what?
Crazy is that Pete Buttigieg during this whole time is on paternity leave. And you just want to go, listen, man, I understand it's hard to raise a child, but isn't that supposed to be for the person who gave birth?
It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Now
leave?
over 70 ships containing 500,000 containers are waiting offshore.
500,000.
But he was saying this, this negative feedback loop that is rapidly cycling out of control, that if it continues unabated will destroy the global economy. I'm like, that's a nice one to just slide in there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's complicated, but I do know the trucking stuff has something to do with it too, because there was already problems with truckers. They kind of abandoned California.
This is what it looked like 2 years ago. This is a visualization of the data they used on a map.
So we're watching trucks
just
or ships come in.
Ships. There's
just
maybe
a couple
10.
ships. This is 2019.
And this is last week.
Why are there so many?
Because they're all stuck.
This is why.
Oh, that's why?
Yeah.
Because they're stuck?
Yeah, they're all floating around out here waiting to find space to come into there to go wait, and they can kind of get in there. Like you said, if there's only 7 out of hundreds of cranes emptying them, then they're waiting.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And that's why you can't buy toys.
And it's also affecting small businesses.
Yeah.
It's just it definitely feels like a clusterfuck. And
No,
I think.
but who's responsible? Is this people are blaming Pete Buttigieg because of the fact that he's
why?
on paternity leave? They're saying he's the Secretary of Transportation. Does that make any sense?
I'm not sure. I mean, that was a weird one because I never know in those stories. It's like, is this just like a partisan thing where you just want to yell at the guy because.
But it is kind of crazy. He's on paternity leave. It is.
The craziest thing to me was the picture of them in the fucking hospital bed.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, women! It's just you weren't in a hospital. I mean, maybe. I don't know if they were there for.
Yeah, maybe they were there for the baby. I mean, there's 2 options in terms of why they might be in the hospital. One option is that they said, hey, now we've got this new baby, this newborn baby. Let's go to a hospital and take a photo of us in the bed. Let's go do that. Or the other option is maybe that's where they had a surrogate mom who delivered the baby, and the baby needs to stay in the hospital for a day or 2.
I like how it's instructive how how Rogan returns to it and keeps trying to, right?
Push it. And
the guest.
This isn't the end of it either. I don't know if this is a longer clip. Maybe that's not clipped out. But he goes on and says, like, if you want to be in Germany, that's one thing. But this is America.
Let's play that clip in a second. But the bottom line is that the answer is no. One person cannot fix this huge clusterfuck of logistics, and there are multiple reasons why we have that image of all of those boats that are basically in a holding pattern off the coast of Long Beach. And this is also not exclusive to Long Beach. This is at our ports. I think there's a big port down New Orleans that also has this issue, or Louisiana, I should say. The problems are the way that we spend our money is different right now. People aren't traveling in the same way. They're not going out in the same way. They're buying more stuff.
Yes.
15% more stuff. That's a significant bump.
Goods and less services and less travel.
Exactly.
Think of it like that.
Exactly. B, we have a shortage of truck drivers in this country. And so what's happening is they're getting backed up. They're so backed up with containers in the port that truckers, and they've opened it up 24 hours a day now to allow truckers to come in, they're just not coming. And part of it is because the supply chain is all screwed up. So they can't figure out, there's not enough truckers, which I'm sure it's part of it. Are the warehouses full that the truckers would take it to? And perhaps they're full because there's some element that is missing for the construction of whatever it is. And so there's no point in getting more, sofa legs if you don't have the sofas.
People don't know which one of the dominoes is screwy right now in the domino.
I think they're all
chain.
Screwy.
Yeah.
And then the problem they're having in Long Beach, they just changed the rules where you can stack the containers instead of 2 high, 4 high. We're going to hear about a horrible accident that's going to take place at this place. And so there's this whole confluence of different things. And they're starting to charge now. You can't leave containers on the dock for an extra $100. And there's some people in part of the supply chain that say that's going to help, others that say not. I mean, the bottom line is it's one of those classic, the snake eats the rat, and you can just see it trying to pass its way through the body. That's what's going on here. Or it's that Pete Buttigieg took a picture with his baby in a hospital.
Yeah, and if you want to make a point that Pete Buttigieg is a corny weirdo, I'm sympathetic to that. But of course, it needs to be. The way Rogan's doing it there, it's coded in homophobia. And it's also interesting to me how all of his talking points are downstream from what we heard earlier in the week. What we covered earlier in the week about paternity leave.
Right.
First, it's Tucker, who makes the comment. Then who?
Crowder.
Then Crowder. Then Charlie Kirk.
Listen, if you come up with the premise that our supply chain issues, which of course have been happening for months and months. I mean, people remember what happened with lumber, right? I mean, we just have all of a sudden a huge shift in consumption. And if you come up with the idea that this is even possibly a function of Pete Buttigieg being on paternity leave, aside from maybe not understanding what the word paternity means.
Yeah.
Questioning why a man would go on paternity leave. It indicates to me that your primary source of information is coming from Breitbart or Daily Wire or some other right wing, because
or Jimmy Dore. I forgot about that. Dore did this before. This is the same recycling project.
Wherever you're getting your news, it is quite clear that it is coming from right wing partisan sites at that point. And so, that's the problem. That's the problem with Rogan has always been. his media consumption.
Yeah, and just to address why he had like Bernie and Cornel West on during the Bernie campaign, because it would have looked bad, one, if he didn't, and it's leaving attention on the table. That's why he did that. And we saw like his endorsement was basically paper thin, but if to the extent you have to elaborate an endorsement for any one of these vampires, of course you would pick Bernie.
Yeah, and I forget if I said this out loud already or if I was just thinking it, but did you see how the guests tried to return to like talking about the shipping?
Well, yeah. I think we should
multiple times, and he returned to it 3 times.
Let's try a little bit more, because I really want to get to this part where Joe says...
Okay, go.
Yeah.
Like it's like you weren't in a hospital. I mean, maybe I don't know if they were there for the
foot surgery.
For the birth, maybe the surrogate was, but it wasn't
But
like
it's on the-
they were in the hospital.
They were on the bed where women give birth.
Yeah,
it was like
that's
a birthing table. Yeah, see, that's what's weird.
Yeah, that was a little bit much for me.
But it's like, but here's the thing: one of you should do that. One of you should take care of the children. Like this idea that both parents should get maternity and paternity leave at the same time is a little weird.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't. Only
Why?
because I have a German cousin and they get the shit. I mean, they get like a full year for the woman and 9 months for the husband.
That's great. You want to live in Germany? Because in America, you got to work. Like, here's the thing. If you have a small business, you're the one who loves small businesses, okay? Right?
Yeah.
Imagine.
No,
if
you
have
can't
an employee,
take maternity leave.
Imagine if you have an employee and this is your fucking CEO of your little company or whatever, and the wife has a baby and the husband's like, I'm taking 4 months off. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I need paternity leave. Like, he's been off since August.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah, imagine.
I could tell you as a small business owner, when Matt Binder's child was born, I believe. I think they gave him like 2 weeks off paid paternity leave. It's not 4 months. It's not Germany. If the government was to subsidize,
yeah, the government should just subsidize.
Subsidized, I would have been. But obviously, like this small businesses are not held to the same obligation as larger companies are. But it's not just Germany, folks. It's every Western industrialized country in the world, at the very least. At the very least. At the very least. They all provide paternity leave. All of them.
12 weeks is the minimum?
I mean, just like, let's put it this way. You walk into a room, you meet somebody, and that person says, you know what? Every single person in this room is crazy. Everybody's crazy. They're all crazy.
Except for me.
Except for me.
Yeah.
They're all crazy.
I'm America.
I mean, does it not occur to him that, like, wait a second, if Germany can figure it out, and France can figure it out, and England can figure it out, and Sweden can figure it out, and Switzerland can figure it out, and Italy can figure it out, and we can just keep going on, and Spain can figure it out, and, all of Canada can figure it out, and Australia can figure it out, and on and on. They can all figure it out, but in America, we're special. We don't have to figure it out because our families are magical. And
we got to work instead.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so look at how he sympathizes with bosses there, right? That's his number one impulse. Like, think about if you're a CEO.
You got to compel that new dad to work for you.
Yeah. Imagine, you need that worker. You're the CEO. He needs to be making money for you, that father.
Your small business needs him more than his child does.
Yeah. I mean, come on. And then my other observation is, love the mansplaining about all that to his female guest, but whatever. And then I guess the third thing I wanted to say about it was that the entire opposition to paternity leave on the right, which now I'm including Rogan in, there's also there's capitalist assumptions that I just laid out, but there's also this weird commitment to masculinity as entirely disconnected from emotion and fatherhood, where they see themselves again as like Don Draper in that episode where he goes back to work after his wife gives birth. I mean, they see their masculinity as inextricably tied to capitalism and their work and disconnected from family. And it's like this impulse that I can't understand, but basically you're not a real man if you don't want to be working and you want to be spending time with your kid. And that is such a pervasive, I think, theme in a lot of the way that these right-wingers have been framing this very topic, which is also why they're so homophobic about it, and they're very quick to use Pete Buttigieg as an example.
And can't understand what the word paternity leave means.
Yeah.
And of course, Germany, notorious for its slackers when it comes to work.
It's a totally unproductive nation.
Yeah.
Calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam, it's Ronald Reagan.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. Speaking of people who aren't apparently working, just hanging on the phone.
Yeah, calling into your favorite show.
No problem. Sorry, clients. It's Ronald Reagan, everybody.
Yep.
Sorry, clients. I'm taking sort of paternity leave.
Probably going to lose all those cases anyways. So.
I'm taking what is it? Abogado leave.
Abogado. Yeah, that'd be nice. It did. I wanted to talk about this.
You didn't just call me Dad, did you?
Rogan.
Okay.
I remember when I
love to call you Dad.
When I went to Spain. What's that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm a dad. Yeah, that's true. I remember going to Spain when I was a young lad and talking to somebody, and they were saying, "Oh, I've got my vacations in October," and I was like, "Oh, when?" And they said, "No, October. Like October is my month off," and like I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But it's probably true that, like, for a lot of small businesses, obviously it would be hard to lose an employee for a long time. But in the places where that happens, I'm sure they have like mitigations in place, and also just an understanding that like the stakes of your job are not as high as raising a child. So like if it were the norm that my paralegal, she has a child and she's off for a bunch of months, it would probably also be the norm that like the immigration court would be more understanding that I need an extension on that brief because I'm, low staffed or whatever because of paternity leave. And then society develops,
of course,
like, general understandings of like, oh yes, your brief is due, but of course you've got 3 staff members who are out on paternity leave and you're working with some part-time assistants or whatever for the time being. And like everyone's on the same page. What he's talking about is like a greater sort of psychopathy of American culture that like you just have to.
Well, he naturalizes it, right? Like because it speaks to the myopic thinking of like the conservative mind. Because I've experienced it my whole life in my culture. This is the natural way.
People can also understand this like going in reverse, right? I mean, there was a time where it's like, okay, I need that document. I need the document. And so I will wait for it to come in the mail. Or then it's like, I need that document. Can you fax it to me or have a delivery person get on a bike in this city and ride it to me? Or then it's like, you fax it to me. And of course, the faxing doesn't happen immediately. And now people send documents through email. And so the expectations of people's productivity changes. If we were to introduce the idea of universal paternity leave and maternity leave, or also, for that matter, introduce the universal idea of 4 weeks paid vacation, everybody gets it, and everybody's on the same playing field, then our society would adapt very, very quickly. In addition to, because everybody would also enjoy the benefit of that. Yes. So you're absolutely right.
Right. I just also wanted to say, there's been some tension between you and I, obviously. In terms of Apple stuff. But it.
What you said about the Roxbury Russet, the oldest apple in the country, one that is both tart and crisp, not saccharine, a sense that this is an apple that could sustain one through long winter nights, years rather, and an apple that has shown excuse me, let me finish, please, has shown the quality that has allowed it to be so durable in the hearts and minds of Americans. And you said, I think it was something like, you said it was mealy or it was potato-like.
Right. It's really nice. It is very hearty. It's got a lot of russet qualities with a little bit of that Yukon Gold sort of, aftertaste, which I really appreciate. It's a very good hearty apple that
like
I'm sure
a raw
the pioneers...
potato.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great quality. If you're, crossing the plains in, 1845 or whatever, you probably wanted a sack of those in the back of your covered wagon. So yeah, that was cool that you sent me those. They were great. Thank you for that. But I was trying to bury the hatchet, and then you just drug me right back into our feud.
Well, I was just outlining it for people.
Okay. Right. I was going to say that it was brought to my attention that David Pakman's favorite apple is the Granny Smith. And I think that it's important for, people like us to be able to, agree to disagree, bury the hatchet on the small things and really come together when it has, on these things and to identify the real enemies, which, is and always has been David Pakman. So.
I mean, honestly, do you really even like apples if your favorite apple is a Granny Smith apple? It's like, I don't know. It
raises a lot of questions. Honestly,
it sounds to me like the guy's probably never even had an apple. Granny Smith.
Right. I think that's true. And also it seems like something.
It's like the Usual Suspects, right? Like it's like it's as if he was asked it, like he had somebody asked him on Twitter, "What's your favorite apple?" And he just happened to be in like a 7-Eleven, and he looked around and he goes, "Granny Smith."
What's that have to do with the Usual Suspects?
Because that's the way you saw, that scene in the last scene of, and he's looking around the office, and that's how he came up with Kaiser Soze and the whole story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So.
Right. To me, it gives off some Ted Bundy vibes.
Ooh, all right. I wasn't going to go with there.
You went there.
All right.
Well,
Ronald Reagan, always a pleasure. Well, often a pleasure.
All right. Are the fences being mended here?
Let's just keep it with often a pleasure.
I'm working on a Type 5 so I can do the intro for the live show. Maybe you would have me, if you
do the warm up.
Do the warm up. What's the deal with Just Coffee? They also sell chocolate. I mean, do they know what the word "just" means? Anyways.
All right. Bye-bye.
That's strong.
Okay. Work on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm glad that it seems like the page is being turned.
Yeah.
You think you can? You think you can forgive him?
You always got to worry about the guy who wants to open the show, and that's the material he's bringing. Like, how about bringing your A game? That's what I would say.
You mean apples?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Calling from a 504 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, this is Oscar from New Orleans. I called in about 2 months ago maybe to discuss this was when the reconciliation bill still included the path for dreamers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously the situation has changed. So I heard, about the Senate parliamentarian. I'm like, okay, who the fuck is the Senate parliamentarian? But from what I understand, and I haven't really done a lot of research, but it's more of a suggestion, correct? But my question really is I don't think, for the next 2 years at least, there's probably not going to be a lot of talk. But yeah.
Now, Oscar, remind me, you're a DACA recipient? Is that right? or I guess
correct.
Yeah. There is no the Senate parliamentarian is an advisory position. You can fire the Senate parliamentarian. You can overrule the Senate parliamentarian. It happened under the Bush administration. The Republicans fired a parliamentarian who wouldn't allow for certain types of tax cuts during their reconciliation bill. The Democrats, for some reason, my guess is because somebody doesn't want those provisions to be in there. Ultimately, they use the parliamentarian to hide behind, maybe. Like, I honestly can't come up with another rational reason. If they wanted to do it, they could get rid of the parliamentarian. They don't want to have that fight. There are other provisions that I know that they're trying to sort of figure out how they can get into the bill. I don't think there's going to be a legislative fix for DACA at this point. It's and you're right. I don't know that anybody's going to be talking about it going into an election year. The Democrats, Joe Biden has shown that he's terrified of the immigration issue, as far as I can tell, and has made a huge mess of things in my estimation as well. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to wait and see. I mean, like, right now, the only really way is to get married. That's a difficult process in and of its own. But I met a poet who was undocumented at one point, and he went through a complicated process of getting the Einstein visa.
Oh, interesting.
But he even told me, he was like, yeah, just try and get married, because it's a difficult process. It's not like just because he has it, I have the chance to get it, even if I become a poet or whatever. But
well,
yeah, no, that's about it. Thank you.
Hang in there, Oscar. I'm sorry. Check back in after the bill is up, and maybe there's something in there. At this point, it's hard to imagine.
They were. There were rumblings that they were still trying for something, but my guess is what Sam would say is that there's nothing will be in it.
Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Hang in there, man. Thank you all.
Horrible. Calling from a 657 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Sam. This is Norris from Pittsburgh.
Norris from Pittsburgh. What's on your mind?
Hi. Yes, I wanted to talk about a statement that I've kind of been thinking about a lot over the past couple of months. There was a question on the political compass test, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinions on it. So the statement is, I don't think that people with serious inheritable genetic disorders should be able to reproduce. So I want to get your guys' opinion first. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with that? Or
no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think that we should prevent people from, what is it, from reproducing?
What kind of disorders are you talking about?
He's saying
like serious ones that could possibly cripple a child's well-being, such as like Huntington's disease, sickle cell, stuff like that.
You can't tell if your child is going to have sickle cell.
Well, you can for certain diseases if you have a genetic history of it. I mean, generally no. Stuff like that.
But
I would say generally no.
Okay. Well, I agree that I don't think that people with who have either a family history of it or have it themselves should be able to reproduce, because I think that is seriously crippling the child. I'm not taking this from a eugenicist perspective.
Well, that's good. That's a relief. It just sounded like eugenics, but
no, that's fucking stupid.
So wait a second. So
we didn't agree with that, by the way.
No, I didn't agree that we should prevent people from, that the government should be involved in preventing people from producing a child or whatever it was. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, well,
if you want the government to step in when people get a genetics test and forcibly prevent them from having a child, you and I do not agree.
Can I offer an argument for my position?
I mean,
it's
super quick.
It's completely from the perspective of the child. I don't think that you have first of all, I don't think anybody ought to have a child because I'm an anti-natalist, so I don't think that anybody has an intrinsic right to reproduce.
So let me just be clear. I get it from the perspective of the child. I get what you're saying, and you're going to make an assessment how it is to be a child with that disease, and if they want to, and that they would rather have not existed. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know how one makes that argument, and certainly I don't know how one makes that argument for any given child in that situation, or for all of the children who have ever been in that situation. But let's just look at this from just simply a practical standpoint. In your mind, the government does what? It steps in and either prevents people from copulating, or it sterilizes people, or it does mandatory abortions. Which of those three would you enforce this with?
Well, I would incentivize people to not have children in general.
Okay. So you wouldn't make it. You're not saying you would outlaw it. You're just saying that you would give a tax credit for people who don't have children, or a gift card.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. You want to give tax credits to people not have children, or gift cards?
But what if they have children?
Great.
What if they have children and they still take your tax credit? Are you going to enforce that through?
Well, no.
Penalization?
If you have the children, it's going to be obvious you don't get the tax credit.
Okay, but you take the tax credit.
Yeah.
All right.
So you think there should be a child, instead of like a child tax credit that exists now, there should be a child tax?
Yes.
Okay.
I definitely believe
that's the way we do it.
But only for children with diseases.
No, in my ideal society, any child. I don't think anybody has the intrinsic right to have a child, because you're basically rolling the dice for another human being's welfare. You don't know if that baby's going to be born with cancer.
You're right.
You don't know what's going to happen in that child's life. You don't know how they're going to die.
Yeah, but
how about you just give them how about they can just euthanize themselves at a certain age?
No.
Yeah, and if kids and ask a child with cancer, or a child with a disease like the one that you mentioned, do you wish you were never born, or do you appreciate the value of your life as it exists right now? I don't know why you feel you have the authority to make a determination on whether or not that child would value their existence.
No, I don't think you have the right to impose torture on somebody, to impose cancer on somebody.
No one's imposing it.
Okay. I mean, I got you. You know what? But you know what? Okay, so let me just get, in your world, there's a penalty if you have children. But you know what? I also think, why stop there? Because it's possible that you could get cancer tomorrow, and you're an adult now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would bump up the tax on you, because the longer you're alive, the greater there's an opportunity for something bad to happen to you. And in some way, maybe we just want to disincentivize you from sticking around, and you get a tax credit if you
die.
If you die in a way that's not painful. If you die in a way that's painful, you don't get the tax credit.
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't?
Because if you're already alive, there's a reason you have a reason to stay alive.
Dude, do you realize the longer you're alive, the greater the opportunity is that you're going to maybe get cancer or some type of debilitating situation? Honestly, the safest thing right now, and I'm not suggesting this, I'm just saying in terms of according to your logic, the safest thing right now would be for us to euthanize, really, in many respects, and do it in a way that we know that is not going to cause you suffering.
No, because you're not factoring into the right of the person to decide for themselves on that.
Oh, I see. So we only do this with
once you're alive, you have a right to control your own body, but you don't have the right to impose life on another person.
But like, can't you impose life on another person with your body? Like just all the parts you have from your...
So
what? Wait, I don't.
Like you're just naturally able to do that.
Listen,
I don't know.
I'm sorry. This is I mean, fun, but it's really sort of silly.
But I think you should run on this platform. I think, run for office and see how, maybe others will be more receptive to like an extension.
You understand this is not an argument. This is not an argument that can be won with logic, right? This is just whether you think that human beings should be allowed to procreate or not. And it's
animals too. I think it applies to animals as well.
Right. No, of course you do. And so, no, of course. I mean that.
Fluffy
yes,
better
of
not
course.
reproduce.
And viruses and viruses. Right? Like,
well, no, the animal kingdom has even more suffering than humans do. Like every single day, there's essentially.
Dude, let's just end this all. Let's just end it all. Come on.
There's only suffering. There's no joy in life.
Can't we park this? Can't we park this whole planet into a garage and just let the car run?
Well, that would effectively eliminate all suffering. Is that not correct?
Yes. So that's
yes.
So focus on your Dr. Evil plan to blow up the
give me
planet,
another 30, 40 years, and then we'll talk.
And then get back to us.
Dr. Evil. I'm not in favor of killing anybody. I'm in favor of not producing any more humans or animals. That's it. It's not in favor of.
Cool, man.
You know what?
It's not like this evil.
No, it's not.
Okay,
it's not
no,
weird
I know. I got you. I got you. Listen, I got you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I gotta go. Honestly, I don't know what to tell you.
No, you have to hang.
It's an interesting idea. But
this is how we hang up.
Oh yeah. Okay. Bye. I can't believe I had that guy on for 9 minutes. I'm sorry. Folks, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
I like how we thought we agreed with him at first. It's like, yeah, so we both agree that we should stop people from having
I'm sorry. I like how we go from a guy who is a DACA recipient trying to figure out how he can stay in a country that he's been living in for the vast majority of his life, with this constant threat over him as to whether he's going to be ripped away from his family and from his friends and whatnot. And then we move to another caller who's like, we have got to prevent animals and human beings, or human beings and animals and the entire animal kingdom.
Excuse me, Mr. Moose, you've been charged with procreating against the law.
Yes, no tax credit for you.
I mean,
chastity belts
right.
for
the thing is,
geese.
the tax credits aren't going to work for me. Well, but no, it's not chastity belts. It's a jobs program, because we will have a whole core of government paid, basically like castrators.
Yeah.
The animal IRS is going to be amazing. Talk about bureaucracy.
And if no one's procreating, at some point it's just going to be like, they'll be whittled down, and then there will be one final animal IRS agent at age 115.
It's just like, I don't know how to even respond to that. Like, I mean, I'm convinced there's a show out there where that call makes some sense, but this is not it. Like, it's not it. All right, let's take one more call, and then I am not evil. I just want to prevent
This is not
eugenics and human beings from reproducing through tax incentives.
I just want to do no children. What's that movie? Where people can't. Children of Men. I just want to do that for real, but it's not eugenics or evil or anything.
Oh God. Calling from 516 area code. I got to tell you, you got a lot to. It's going to take a lot to impress us.
Hi, this is Jay from Long Island.
Jay from Long Island, what do you have like some plan to bore to the center of the earth and blow up half of it, and that way we can
no
sequester
plan.
carbon?
I'm from New
something?
York. I'm actually interested in the ballot proposals.
Okay.
Oh. So I mean, I think most of them are pretty straightforward, but the number one proposal is, and basically I'm looking for information. I'm not with an opinion. It basically freezes the New York State Senate, and I think it does some other things. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts as a New York show.
The Senate proposal, to be honest with you, I just don't know that one that well, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know if... Is this different from the redistricting process?
I think it's part of it, but or I think it's related to it, but I'm not sure. I just got my ballot in the mail and was looking through that one, and that was the only one that really, I think, threw me for a loop. Maybe you could get back to me?
Well, I mean, look, I think my sense is this. New York State is not expanding. And I think that by maintaining the number of Senate seats, this is just off the top of my head, I gotta double check this. It is a way of ensuring democratic control of the state house. And I am of the mind that because of the way the Supreme Court is deciding these type of redistricting cases, and B, because the Republican Party in every state in which they have the opportunity to do so is doing everything they can to retain control of state houses and also the federal congressional districts. This doesn't directly deal with congressional redistricting, but ultimately who controls the state house does. And so anything that maintains democratic control of the state house, I am in favor of, because this is the nature of the battle that we're in right now. Texas and in North Carolina, I mean, Georgia, Republicans controlled state after state after state. Wisconsin even, they're maintaining, redistricting to the extent that even though you have a majority of people voting Democratic, Republicans are winning by a wide margin in terms of like the state houses. So I think that's basically it.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
Let me double check that.
Supreme Court justices.
Let me
zero choices.
Let me double check that though.
Okay. Yep. Thanks a lot. Really enjoy the show.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Talk to you later.
I'll let you get to another. All right. Thanks. Bye.
That threw me for a loop because I thought like I was going to have to handle a much bigger question. What's your sense of that, Bradley? Do you have an idea on that?
Yes would probably be better, just because I think incarcerated people being counted is probably for the best, but not really much else though. It's
all right. I got to double check on that.
Yeah.
Bofa, pretty disappointed in you, Sam. Don't really think you gave the insane animal castrator guy a fair shake. Good luck in your liberal echo chamber. Yep. All right. I mean, I'm sorry.
Echo chambers, man.
Oh, speaking of giving people who are asking you questions in your program a fair shake. Now, look, when somebody calls into the show and says, "Hey, do you think that we should, outlaw people's ability to have children or disincentivize it, and also animals, which I'm not sure exactly how you disincentivize it with animals. Maybe you just spray the animals with some type of like opposite sex repellent or something. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
Well, yeah.
But, Charlie Kirk had a situation like this, although it was a guy who really felt like he was on the same side as Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. And Charlie Kirk seemed to be a little bit surprised of what he was sort of germinating in his audience.
You ready? Yeah. You're brave. You're brave for what you say and the fact that you stand up there and say it, and I appreciate it. I think we all appreciate it, actually, because there's not a lot of people that have the balls to do it. But I want to ask you something a little bit out of the ordinary. So, prepare yourself. At this point, we're living under corporate and medical fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
So, no, no, hold on. No, stop, hold on. Now, I'm going to denounce that. I'm going to tell you why. Because you're playing into...
Well, pause it for 1 second. Pause it for 1 second. Oh, it's the Exposing Critical Racism tour that he's on.
Yeah. I love how the guy clarified, too. Use the guns. Just to be clear, to start killing people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It sounds like the clarification of the last caller, actually.
Yeah, right.
All right, so go back a little bit. Let's watch how... I mean, because isn't that what we've been told... why the Second Amendment is important?
Yeah, Rand Paul said it's for confronting tyranny.
Yeah.
Government tyranny. And has not Charlie Kirk been saying daily on his radio show that this vaccine mandate is tyrannical? I mean...
He called it medical fascism right there. I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk has used that term, if I'm not... at the very least, right-wing pundits.
What's the response to a blatantly stolen election?
I know, right?
I mean, isn't that tyranny?
The democracy.
Isn't that the point of the Second Amendment? The guy's got a very good point. But let's hear how Charlie Kirk deals with this, because it is either the whole point of the Second Amendment, right, is that there is a line. And if medical tyranny and corporate tyranny and stolen elections is not the line, where is the line? Let's listen to what Charlie Kirk has to say.
At this point, we're living under corporate and medical fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
So, no, no, hold on. No, stop, hold on. Now, I'm going to denounce that. I'm going to tell you why. Because you're playing into all their plans, and they're trying to make you do this. That's okay. Just hear me out. You started with a compliment, so at least give me a little bit. They are trying to provoke you and everyone here. They are trying to make you do something that will be violent, that will justify a takeover of your freedoms and liberties, the likes of which we have never seen. We are close to have, we are close to have momentum to be able to get this country back on a trajectory using the peaceful means that we have at us. So to answer your question, and I just think it's, overly blunt, we have to be the ones that do not play into the violent aims and ambitions of the other side. They fear, let me say this very clearly, they fear us holding the line with self-control and discipline, taking over school board meetings. They're the ones that are willing to use federal force against us. And I know that people get fired up. We are living under fascism. We are living under this tyranny. But if you think for a second that they're not wanting you to all of a sudden get that next level where they're going to say, okay, we need Patriot Act 2.0. If you think that, Waco is bad, wait till you see what they want to do next. What I'm saying is that we have a very fragile balance right now at our current time where we must exhaust every single peaceful mean possible.
I mean, he didn't answer the question. I mean, he's very smooth about that, but he doesn't answer the question. Then why do we have a Second Amendment? What's the point? Why have you been advocating the Second Amendment for so long?
And why have you been amping up this rhetoric that talks about how we are in these dire situations for our democracy and elections being stolen and tyranny and fascism? I mean, if those things aren't occurring, then what is the point of like the entire armed militia and Second Amendment importance that you've been drumming up?
Emma, don't you understand that the way you defeat tyranny is by getting control of the school boards? The way that you defeat federal tyranny and fascism is you get control of the school boards, and then it goes away.
It's very
build a
interesting
foundation there.
how like Charlie has to move from the hysterical CRTs, brainwashing your kids and all the elections are fraudulent to we're actually very close to turning this around for everybody if you just keep donate and support our school board efforts.
It really dovetails nicely with the clip that we played on Monday, honestly, about that veteran who said Epstein didn't kill himself, or Epstein didn't kill himself, Epstein was murdered, to the Fox anchor. Like these right-wing pundits want there to be multiple degrees of separation between their base and the extreme rhetoric that they are fomenting on a regular basis. Like they want the fruits of that rhetoric. They want the anger to drive up revenue for them and their views, but they don't want to face the consequences of it, nor do they really even want to see the reaction in people. But like that line is impossible to walk, as we saw on January 6th, and as I fear we will see in the coming months and years with this kind of violence.
Yeah, they need campaign issues.
And to be clear, according to TB Evans on our IM, that Charlie Kirk incident happened in Boise, Idaho, 2 days after they had an active shooter in their local mall that killed 2 and wounded a cop and 3 others.
Yeah, well.
Keep telling them the election's stolen, Charlie. See what happens.
There you go. You cannot say that we are living under a tyranny and under fascism.
And expect a highly armed population.
And that you have a God-given right to carry a weapon so that you can protect yourself from the tyranny and fascism of your government. And not have somebody go like, hey, wait a second. How do those two
I'm gonna connect those
how do
dots.
those two things connect?
Well, that's the thing. They also have immense contempt for their audience. They think they won't connect those things and it won't come back to them. And if they do, I have plausible deniability because Charlie Kirk's standing up there and doesn't like have the ability to like draw a line directly to him, even though he paid for buses on January 6th, for example. But like that's the difference between when the left talks about like, even if it was a little hysterical in some of the rhetoric about Trump, for example, but that population isn't heavily armed and ready to go and under the belief that their Second Amendment is one of the most inextricable rights for being an American. Like that is a fundamental difference. So you can't divorce that.
Let's take some IMs, and we'll get to maybe we'll get to Rubin and God, we got just the whole cavalcade of does Sunset Lake have a physical store in Vermont? They don't deliver to Canada, but Burlington is only 3 hours away, so it's a good weekend getaway place. I was just hoping to grab some if I just happen to be in town. Go to the Sunset Lake Sabade.com and send them an email about that. They may, I don't know if they have a physical place on the farm. I'm not sure about that. Billionaires buying up all the art in the world and having no one else besides other billionaires to trade back and forth is the end point of NFTs or crypto. Once you don't have new people buying and to be stuck holding the bag, they just end up trading amongst each other and the value tanks. Yes, I would imagine. It's amazing that anytime either of Rogan or his guests asks the other a question that may require even 5 seconds research, the answer is, I just don't know. I know there's something else involved. Let's move on. Yeah, indeed.
And we're supposed to act like that's valuable, like intellectual meditation.
Yeah.
Welsh is best. The answer to Dan the objectivist's coercive employment dilemma is to have a product to sell. Has he considered sperm donation? Matt from Indiana drove through a Burger King drive-thru on lunch break yesterday. Now hiring, of course. Big post with a bunch of older folks smiling on the caption. Do you really need to retire? I decided I didn't need Burger King. Hey. Right now, there's like, I think I'm starting to see some data that suggests it was a huge like wave of retirements, essentially. Penelope Inked. Got to wake up with two of my favorite guys this morning, Sam Seder and Pete Dominic. Yeah, I had fun on Pete's show yesterday. He records it and then he puts it out today. Interview ideas. Can you guys interview Noam Chomsky and Dean Baker? Please, please, please. I promise those guests will enrich your show with crucial information and concepts and ideas. I also noticed in Jimmy Dore's hit job on Noam Chomsky, they did plays a New Scientist article that came out a few days ago. I read it. Good article on how wildly effective vaccines are. I was puzzled as to why Dore displayed such a pro-vaccine article. Went back and checked the video. Check it and see for yourself. You'll see that he displays the article and then reads from a different publication that is not the piece he had just displayed. I don't know. I mean, he's an idiot.
He's just dumb guy.
Dr. Nick, I think I have whiplash from that happy hump day to abusive relation dynamics turnaround. Indeed, yeah, we all did. I mean,
I apologize. Sometimes I'm a bit socially awkward. I don't know if you guys can tell.
You should be able to find Sunset Lake at smoke shops in Burlington. Check out Burn Gallery or Garcia's on Church Street. There you go. Tongue in cheek, F it. Joe Manchin wants to kill our planet. I'm okay with killing his stupid infrastructure bill out of spite. Yeah, that's a bad way to assess.
I understand the rage, though.
Yes. Darth Bane, win Man City until they say it backwards. I don't quite get it. 10 lawn gnomes. Aren't they watering down the expansion of Medicare to not kick in for 6 to 8 years? Or at what point would that even remember who passed it? On the topic of apples, if you just water an apple tree with apple juice, is that cannibalism? Hegemony Cricket. Catch-22 has a bit about only coming to their office when they're not there. Whenever the person is in their office, no visitors are allowed to come in. What is that? Wait, no, what's that from?
Catch-22.
Yeah, no, but why was he saying that? When did that come up in the show?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I can't remember what made that, but... Okay. Oh, shoot. Little Mac. The point to walk away was weeks ago. We will never get anything until the DNC understands, believes progressives are willing to... the DNC? What are you talking about?
Bradley just sent this. Dem leadership and White House sources are telling Punchbowl the billionaire tax is all but dead because of Manchin's opposition.
There you go. What does the DNC understands? Like, people want there to be some entity that can that can be leveraged. The DNC is just a collection of individuals who have nothing to do with this process whatsoever. The DNC is just simply not involved in this.
Well, at some point, I think, like, the DNC aside, like, the squad and progressives in Congress need to be able to exercise some sort of veto power. Now, when and where that is a different question. But, like, I think that absolutely, like, Joe Biden has not got the message about this at all. Like, I honestly don't care about Manchin and cinema. This is a Joe Biden problem to me, and it's been that way for weeks.
He's got to. He's
never taken ownership over any of this stuff.
No.
Yeah.
No. And it's in some respects it's too late. I mean it's blown. Joe Manchin feels like he can do this. He feels like he can do it because of that. So we had somebody call in, or they call in, or did they email? And where the heck is this? I know I had it and I can't find it now. Here it is. So there was a listener, and his name's Chris. And he was down at the Omaha Kellogg's picket. And he wrote back after we had read it, and I got it last week, I guess it was. So this is a little bit late, but he goes, the folks on the Omaha's Kellogg's picket line appreciate your support. They send their enthusiastic thanks, and incidentally, you've gained many new viewers, so that's good. A lot of them hadn't heard of your show. You got to pump up that advertising, Sam. Maybe you could work on that during your downtime on Thursdays. Pac-Man works 5 days a week, FYI. Well, first of all, I got a dirty little secret for you. That is not the case. Do pre-tapes.
Ooh.
Yep.
Wow. Dropping bombs.
Oh, whatever. Maybe he's got other people doing stuff like that. He's like, he uses 3D technology. Anyways, Kellogg's is working up a scheme to remove the BCTGM 50G logo from their cereal boxes for two reasons. One, it's a straightforward slap into the face of the union chapter in Omaha. And two, because removing the logo will obscure whether kids are eating cereal produced in America or Mexico, where quality control isn't as robust. I mean, all you need to do is look at that movie set.
Yeah.
And understand the concept of unions providing quality control. He brought down some hot chocolate and some pizza. Let's see. The most important thing I learned today, lots of these people actually want to work these hours we'd consider insane, but they'd be like a day off when they need one without losing a point, which takes 8 weeks of perfect attendance and behavior to earn back. One guy told me he'd worked 105 days straight and 95 was common. That's insane.
Jesus.
Another said she was fine, her pension secured, but she couldn't stand by and let them do this to the next generation. Another told me something I'll never forget. When you work this many days in a row without a day off, people stop calling you. They forget you and they move on. I've lost people. It's like you died, but there was no funeral to remember you by, and they just delete you because they have no idea what we do or why. That's almost verbatim. I never really contemplated that. What it does to your social life and to your social connections. Talking to them has been a huge honor. I'll be out there one more night tomorrow. If you happen to see this email and share that link or even display it on screen, I think it would lift spirits and extend these people's power and tenacity quite a bit. This is the GoFundMe for striking Kellogg workers, local 50G in Omaha. I imagine there are others for the other cities where Kellogg workers are working. And if you know them, send us to us at majorityreporters@gmail.com. But go there. They're looking to raise 50 grand. They've raised now close to 24,000. So they're about halfway there. Strike fund, obviously hugely important. It strengthens them, makes it easier for them. God knows what Kellogg's has probably done in terms of like cutting off their money and their health insurance. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, all these things are horrible. And some bad news out of Milan, Illinois. A John Deere picketer was struck by a vehicle and killed. It looks like this afternoon. Jonah Furman is reporting about it.
Oh, jeez.
Apparently the person driving was not like a strike breaker or anything like that. But the city had the protesters had been asking the city to fix streetlights and they hadn't done it.
Oh, Jesus. All right, we are done with our call portion of the program. And should we just do Rubin and then you can go and I'll just finish up some IMs after that.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
No.
No.
You know, somebody asked me, I think it was Pete actually, Dominic, I was on his program yesterday. And we started talking about like the stuff that we do around here. And I was like, you know, we still play some Dave Rubin clips. But it used to be the agenda was, and I was very explicit about this 5 or 6 years ago, he was coming out with a book. And I wanted to make sure that anytime a reviewer was going to write about Dave Rubin as part of his publicity thing, that they would, because we were after him so much, whether they searched them in Twitter or whether they searched them in YouTube or whatever it was, that we would be there to be a pushback on the claim that Dave Rubin was
representative of the
last
left.
liberal
Yes.
or whatever it
Yes.
was. Like he was a post-left liberal or whatever it was he was calling himself, a classical liberal. And then it inhibited, I think his book didn't come out till later. I don't think it inhibited when his time he was a book, but he was never able to sort of like get out there. His classical liberal things started to fall apart. And the trajectory was quite obvious. And he ended up working for Glenn Beck, and now he's just on the right. And I said to Pete, I was like, the reason why we play him now is just because he's so stupid. It's funny.
It is funny.
And so, with that said, here is Glenn Beck's Dave Rubin on C-SPAN talking about his book. This is from July of this past year. Nobody noticed him on C-SPAN because, of course, it's not Glenn Beck's network, but we found it, and here it is.
This need to label everybody the worst things just because they have different opinions, the way we do this. This person's a Nazi and Donald Trump was Hitler. Not only is this a denigration of the past, it's an abusive language, and this is, by the way, these tactics are done by the same people who say that everything's cultural appropriation. I mean, that's a type of cultural appropriation if you're unjustly calling a bunch of decent people Nazis and bigots and everything else.
Appropriating Nazi culture is really fun.
But like, is it Jewish culture to call people Nazis? Is that what he means?
That's the other flip side of it. But
I just like, it's just the level of just idiocy. I mean, I wish there was a way that we could do a formula where we could divide, where we could take his level of idiocy and take the cost of his house, or maybe the square footage, and divide it by the amount of idiocy he has.
yeah, how
that
would we quantify his idiocy?
I mean, but it's not just the idiocy, because there's a lot of stupid people.
Yeah, it seems unquantifiable, but like you maybe could do it.
But it's not just that he's an idiot, because like I say, there's a lot of stupid people out there, but it is the audacity to do what he does and be that stupid.
Mm-hmm. The shamelessness.
And the idea that he's been able to do it so successfully while being so stupid is really impressive. I mean, that is what the only price that he pays for his idiocy is, the fact that he has had to constantly be moving across some political, the spectrum of ideology, because if he stays in one place, people catch on.
Mm-hmm.
So he's almost like a snake oil salesman going from town to town, so that he's not around long enough for people to find out, like, hey, wait a second, this doesn't grow back my hair and feed my tomato plants and clean off the rust from my farm equipment. Where is that guy?
He's the Leo DiCaprio character in Catch Me If You Can, except if he was not talented or good at anything.
Right, exactly. But he's landed at Glenn Beck's place, and he will be fine until the audience figures out that, wait a second, he's married to a guy. That's not going to work.
Yeah. That's.
I really do think that Dave may, like the clock may be ticking.
Ex-gay?
No. Well, I guess that's the other option.
Well, I mean,
that's the final frontier.
Yes, that's the final boss of Dave Rubin's new identity.
The beauty is that you can go ex-gay and then become ex-gay.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot.
AKA just like take a break from your husband for 2 months and then cash in a little bit, then
I'm
come back.
rehabilitated and I like women now.
Exactly. Oh, actually, no, I realized I'm not rehabilitated and I like guys again.
Ah.
So.
Is Milo Yiannopoulos back on that train?
Well, it's just a matter of time. Some IMs.
I must leave.
It's all right. I think I can handle it.
I said I gotta leave at 2:35.
I just looked over for something. I just like cash register. I haven't used that one in a long time.
Yeah, no, that's Sam taking cash out of my pocket because I'm not
docked
finishing.
Guess who's not getting
more
dessert at the commissary for the rest of the week?
Yeah.
Extra pudding for everybody else.
have an
So-
appointment.
That's all right.
Bye.
So, Matt, do you like chocolate pudding? Because you're getting 2 helpings
I'm a big
tomorrow.
fan of pudding.
There you go.
I
Bingo.
No more pudding for me.
No more pudding. All righty. All right, let's do some IMs here. For reals, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have Emma, like, slowing the roll on the IMs.
I'm still here,
Shoot.
even though I'm no longer on camera.
I didn't realize you could hear me.
Yeah, you're
I
looking
thought
at
if you're
me.
not on camera, you couldn't hear me. Okay. Project Fuck the World. Okay. Project Unfuck the World. Your butt being clean enough to sit on a couch naked is one of the best pitches ever. Oh, did you read that one the other day?
What? Did you not know I had to read Hello Tushy?
Well, I knew you had to read Hello Tushy, but I've never read
Here's the copy. I'll hand it to you right
Oh no,
now.
I've seen that copy.
I had to read this
I've
phrase.
avoided that. I haven't said that. Like that's the copy. That's the copy for like I don't say that.
I thought I was supposed to read the copy verbatim. It said, "Is your butt clean enough to sit on the couch naked?" Now I've read it twice.
That doesn't seem like a mistake. I never read it. I was just like, oh, hey, I get to that. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say that.
I mean, are you? I now want to like stay around to keep me to make sure you don't besmirch my good name. I would not.
I think you've already. There's what's the besmirching? You just want your butt clean enough to sit on your couch. Good luck. Have fun with your house guests. Who's gonna come over now? It was maybe a couple of months after COVID before your dinner parties start up again.
Especially if you're taking ivermectin.
Exactly. All right. Sam's hanging jag. I was wondering if progressive decide they should tank these bills, and I'm leaning with the opinion that they should. Do you think it's more beneficial for Bernie to block it in the Senate and take the brunt of the heat? He's later in his career. They all hate him anyway. Would this save House progressives from taking so much flack, or do the members of the House need to stand up to block it to make it known they won't concede in the future? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I do think that like we need to see what's in the bill, but I do think that there should be at least an awareness within the caucus as to like, you know, what it would take. Like what would be, you don't want to do something that is just simply about acting out. You want to make sure, because the benefit of doing it is simply that the next time around, there'll be an understanding going into the process that it's shakier than we think it is. And maybe that will change their behavior and they will react quickly, and they will, when they have certain people on board, they'll function quickly or whatnot. There's definitely a benefit to it, but you've got to ask yourself, will there be another opportunity in the next, 5 years? And if there is, will there be a better opportunity to provide more material benefit for people? This is a tough calculation.
Yeah, we talked about this with Paul O'Connell on Left Reckoning in the UK context, which is like Paul's very skeptical of labor and the ability to like make labor better. At the same time, like if you're within that and, you know, exercising power within labor, is it really useful to just like resign now and be done with it, or should you try to do that at a point when it's most opportune? And it's the ultimate hard question.
Yep. But I am inclined, we need to see what the bill is, but I do think that there should be some bright red lines, and I think there should be talk at the very least within the caucuses right now, the progressive caucus in the House, and amongst progressives in the Senate, or maybe it's just in Bernie Sanders' office. What's it going to take for us to walk away? Sam's hanging Chad. I hope Kowalski is hitting farmersonly.com. Balsamic reductionism. Tried a Snapdragon apple for the first time. Truly life-changing. Thanks for the tip, Sammy. You are very welcome. Dreaming of Seder. Amazon shares are $3,402 as of today. Holy crap. Eating granny sip apples is like drinking alcohol-free beer. Sure, it tastes right, but it ain't left. I think this guy's parents should have swallowed him. What a joke. Okay, the chairman. Making calls in Virginia race have been enlightening me. The suburbanites in our party are very, very moderate. We need to stop acting like Build Back Better agenda will help us out politically. Keep hearing about gas prices and inflation in a blue area of the state. Biden won by 10 points. I want to make this absolutely clear. I don't think the Build Back bill, one way or the other, is going to implicate the vast majority of voters. So I just want to make that clear. I do think that this whole crap show gets translated to most voters as they can't get stuff done. They don't even know what it is. They just hear the sort of like the subtext of they can't get stuff done. I also am of the mind that the provisions in the Build Back Better bill were super important to maintaining at least some enthusiasm amongst the base, and that's gone. So this is why, like, you know, as a political question, I don't think the Build Back Better bill makes a damn difference ultimately at this point. In fact, I think the reason why they're rushing it through is because they realize just all this deliberation is causing problems for them. Dr. Chaos MD. But I do think that the Build Back Better bill had the opportunity to provide material benefit to people. That's the whole point of it. Dr. Chaos MD, in addition to stock buybacks being illegal, it was also illegal to primarily pay your executives in stock. The two things together are nothing but an incentive for executives to only care about their short-term gains and maximize their cash out and screw everyone else at the company. Yes, and I would add, you pay your executives in stock. Why do they do that? Because at the same time, capital gains taxes got lowered than payroll taxes, than your average income taxes. So capital gains became preferred. So getting paid in stock was a better way of getting paid. Plus, it's a deferral on when you're going to actually cash that money in. I mean, it was just, it screwed up everything. Between 101...
But greed is good, says
Gordon Gekko?
Yeah, Gordon Gekko.
Yep. Between the 101 and the 5, the billionaire tax might help with disincentivizing complete monopolistic control, too. I was doing research for a gig. There are almost 150 people on Medicaid and Medicare combined, literally half the U.S., so we're already halfway there to Medicare for all. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Jennifer from St. Louis. Sammy's got Amazon stock? No, I don't have Amazon stock. Come on. Joe Rogan is a less charming Matt LeBlanc, Massachusetts man. Rogan is from Jersey. Nina Perez, I'm currently pregnant and understand the argument that it's not worth progressive passing the bill. At the same time, I'm feeling selfish and consumed with my own needs because my company doesn't offer any paid leave, so I'm really hoping that aspect passes. Even if it's just 4 weeks, I could probably cry tears of joy, even though I know I need 12. The quagmire of not being rich, I'm desperate for crumbs. Indeed, I understand. Stop the meal. I mean, that's it right there. That's the... Oh, apparently he grew up in Newton. I didn't know that. I thought he was from New Jersey.
He was born in Newark, but then moved to Newton, Upper Falls.
Oh, okay. Upper Falls, Mass?
Yeah, Newton, Upper Falls.
I've never heard of Upper Falls.
I guess it's in Newton.
Huh. Newton. Is all right. I didn't know that. But my point is that what that last IMer wrote in, Nina, desperately wanting those 4 weeks of paid leave. That's the dilemma. You walk away from this, you're denying people material benefit. And that's why Bernie's in office.
And the issue is, like, the squad and stuff, there's only so much heroic action they can take if they don't have movements backing them up of, like, labor and other sort of groups. And that activity is not really there now either. Like, we're not synchronized as a movement or as an electoral force.
Stop the meal. Paid leave bill would essentially allow private companies to make money off paid leave subsidies while offering bare bones plans for workers. Yes, indeed. The way that it is a crap show from the perspective of like government spending. Let's put it that way. Love how she implied, of course, it must be the California's fault that all the truckers somehow fled the state. Does she not realize that the effing point of a truck is that you drive from any state to transport goods? Yeah. Yes. Pesa Bernie, while there might not be enough art for billionaires to hide their money, there is an ocean of unregulated crypto and the phenomenon of NFTs. Awaken Joe. Horrible system is an understatement. It's wealth extraction mechanism. Even if you manage to hang on to your home, getting on Medicaid as an elderly person, Medicaid will sue the estate after you pass so your kids can't inherit it. Take your house, auction it off to some rich guy, promotes downward mobility for non-millionaires. Indeed. I have personal experience with that very dynamic. All right, 5 of the, let's do, 5 more. Demian. So maybe all those libertarians that call in are really plain pain piggies that need to be humiliated by Sam. I actually bought both of those Bob's Burgers records, and my daughter and I love them. It's really heavy on the Eugene. If the live show goes well, you should do a Midwest one and have Kowalski on stage. Oh, that's a good idea. Nature Girl. It's not a baby, it's twins. Oh, they had twins?
Who did?
Did Buttigieg and his husband? Oh, they did?
You should get double.
That's why they're both in the hospital sitting in the bed. They're holding the kids, you moron.
You should get paid leave in increments of however many babies. So if you have triplets, you should get 3 times the amount of leave.
That's crazy. MSNBC, I love you, but the difference between having $200 billion and having $50 billion isn't nothing. It's $150 billion. I thought you were the ultimate math nerd, shaking my head. We don't need family leave. The babies learn to pick up themselves by their bootstraps, their booty straps. I think you know my point about the $50 billion versus $150 billion, 200, yes. Real ace attorney. The Giants are more like the parent that always lets you down. They say they'll go to your sports games, and then they don't show. They forget to pick you up at school, so you end up walking home by yourself. Then one day they take you out for ice cream, and they think things will be better, and the next day they lose to the Falcons. All right. Sorry. Emma was not here to hear that. Okay, a couple more here. Jonathan Armstead, just joining. Did you see Mort Saul died? I did. I'll talk about that tomorrow. I forgot to mention that. Bradley's his daddy. I'd play apple bobbing in a bucket of Danny DeVito sweat. I love him so much. Okay. David Fromunda Cheese. Anti-natalists have solid internal logic, but it's still true. The only argument you need to prove them wrong is, shut up. Moose should we give tax credit to Moose without children? Thoughts on the Davos family being scammed $100 million? Didn't hear that, but in favor of it. And the final I am of the day, Charlie. Should people in heavily gerrymandered states just join the party doing the gerrymandering and then work from within? For example, DSA in North Carolina should be working to win in Republican primaries. I think organizing could swing rural areas and put seats in play that are some safe. Thoughts? I think that's a good idea.
I mean, this is the North Dakota model. The North Dakota Nonpartisan League was farmers, and it had open primaries on both sides, and they ran in both Republican and Democrat. It just so happened that it was easier for them to win in the Democrat, and that's the party they ultimately sort of took over. But yes, if you have open primaries, run in both of them.
I think so, absolutely. That's what it's going to take. We're going to have a completely thought out process for this stuff. Folks, that's all our time for today. Thank you for joining us. What's today, Wednesday? Yep. Emma will be here tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. Until then, Matt, Bradley, Emma, in abstention. Good job. See you then.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid.